And good morning, everyone. We are live, Tilson Live, joining you today from Austin, Texas, and of course, all other parts of the various countries, areas of the United States. Welcome. I'm Eric Allard, Senior Vice President of Tilson Homes and part of the fourth generation of the Tilson family, joined as I am every single week by the person who makes all this possible and makes it happen, Dawn Dantzler. How are you, Dawn?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing wonderful. Thank you, and thank everyone on here for accommodating another weird time. Tell us where you're coming in from, guys. Drop it in the chat. We want to know where you're watching us from, where you're building. I've got some traveling I have to do today and later this week, so we wanted to not be able to give you guys what you need. So Dawn made everything happen earlier in the day, which is a big inconvenience for her and her team. So I really appreciate that.
It's all fine. We've got people tuning in from Mansfield. We've got Dallas. So I think this will be good. We'll see if mornings work a little bit better for people or not.
Yeah, we'll see how mornings do, guys. So go it's time for your morning break anyway. You started at 8. It's 10 o'clock. It's time for a little break. So come on in here to Tilson Live. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on. All things build on your lot, which is, I think, what we're covering today, Dawn. What are we covering?
Yes, we are. We're going to talk just generally about the built on your lot process because it's a little different from what you're used to if you've built kind of in a subdivision community before. There's a lot of little nuances to building on your land. So we just want to talk through a little bit of those.
Beautiful.
We got people coming in from all over the place.
Oh, yeah. We got Blue Ridge. We got Cameron. Good old Milam
Got
County,
people hanging out in
Texas.
Austin with you.
Yeah. Marcus, there we go. I think they may be tagging someone. I don't think it's Marcus, Texas. I think it's Marcus Moore there.
Oh, we got another Austin.
More Austin. Oh man, all my friends in Austin, Texas. Driving in Austin, it gets me. Gets me every time. I'm not a fan of the driving in Austin.
It's always an adventure because the roads are never the same.
Yeah, and they built these awesome freeways and then put red lights on them, which is not. It's very counterintuitive.
Yeah, it kind of defeats the purpose. So.
I don't blame you, Angela. I don't blame you. You're in Austin now, and you're moving to Bulverde. I don't blame you.
Solid choice. We encourage that. Callisburg. Lockhart.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Lots of fun places.
All right. So everybody, welcome in. We are live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. We are really, really excited to bring you this content today. This is when we were doing in-person seminars in the offices, which we may get back to, who knows. This was the highest attended one always, week in and week out. This was all about building on your land. And just like you said, yeah, it's very different from what most people have ever done. If you've only done the production subdivision thing, or you've only done the resale thing through a realtor on an existing home. So we hope to arm you with everything that you would possibly need, at least at a cursory level. All right, Temple, Texas, on everything you would need to know if you are considering building on your land. Lake Worth, building the Tilson Travis plant in Granbury, Texas.
Awesome. Love that.
Medina, Pearsall, a lot of Central Tech, a lot of hill country folks out here. Medina County. All right. So what we want to do, we want to be sure we answer all of your questions. Drop your questions in the chat. Dawn, Nick, Kelsey, her team will be watching, monitoring the chat. Bryan, Texas, special place in my heart. Love me.
Eric's favorite place.
It is. Waller County, Texas. So drop your questions in the chat. We promise we'll get to them. We'll stop at different intervals throughout the presentation. It's a presentation. Makes it sound very official.
Makes it sound like we have our stuff together.
We do. It's not even a webinar. It's not, because you can get a webinar anywhere.
Webinars are boring. Nobody wants that.
Live, you are getting a full-on presentation. Like a present we give to you. All right. So we got questions. We've got someone from Angleton, Texas. We have already questions about soil. So looking in Granbury, building in Spring Branch, Texas. So they're headed south. All right. So without any further ado, Dawn, I'm gonna switch over to this presentation. And by me, of course, I mean Dawn is going to do it because I don't control anything. Because then it would be out of control, which, as it turns out, is not what you're after when you're doing one of these. So we are going to talk about building on your land, which is a good thing because, as it turns out, the Tilson family is kind of a one-trick pony in that that's all we've ever done is build on your land. So we started obviously in 1932. So right at the peak of the Great Depression, or the ongoing Great Depression, my great uncles got into this thing called building on other people's land because, well, they didn't have any land and certainly couldn't afford any. So they were going to go start building stuff on other people's land. So they did that some nearly 90 years ago, for which we are very grateful. They made that decision. Since then, we've built some 40-odd thousand homes all across the state of Texas, and we have actually surpassed this now. We're well past the on average one family a day moves in.
Yes, I do need to update this.
Yeah, but that's great though. Well, I don't think you have 1.5 families. That would be kind of weird. Like you leave half the family outside and then half the family moves in. So we're not doing that. One a day. I think people get the point. We are subject matter experts when it comes to building on your land, particularly in rural parts of the state of Texas. So if you're here to learn about that, you are going to get every bit of what you paid for. If you're here to learn about something else besides building a home on rural parts of Texas,
you get our bad jokes.
You're going to get bad jokes. That's what you're going to get. But you're going to learn a little bit about building on your land in rural Texas at the end of this. So what is it first and foremost? Of course, and we'll bounce back and forth. Don does some of these a lot more eloquently than I do. But we'll talk about, what does your land even mean? It doesn't necessarily mean like a city lot, obviously. It can, but not necessarily. It can be land, farm and ranch. Maybe you're building a home that you plan to retire to, a second home, perhaps on a lake or on a little ranch in Texas. But what it boils down to is building the home that you want, specifically where you want, as opposed to where the builder chose to take down lots and develop land and build in those areas, and having to select those, 4 or 5 floor plans, those 6 or 7 elevations from those 10 to 15 lots in that subdivision. So very different from that. This is you, the independent Texan, with the power to choose wherever you want to do this thing.
Right.
So, and because of that, there's some other little caveats that go in. So today we will cover all 6 of these points, and some of them in pretty good detail. So we're going to start out defining, how do you even define your needs and your budget, and how do those play into one another? How do you identify the site? Maybe you've already got the site identified, which is great. Even if you do, how do you identify where on the site that we're going to actually put the home? You got to have a deed to the property. What kind of paperwork goes into that? How do you choose a builder? What questions should you even ask? And again, right, Don, like we're not assuming everyone's going to build with Tilson Homes. We hope that they do, or hope we get a shot. But these are things that you need to know whether you build with us or not. No matter who you build with, these are questions that you're going to want to ask, and information you're going to want to be armed with as you go off on this journey. And it is a journey, and it's more of an odyssey now than it used to be.
For sure.
So I don't know if you want do people still have to read the Iliad and the Odyssey? Is that still a thing?
I think you do still have to do that in high school.
Man, even the Cliff's Notes for the Iliad and the Odyssey were rough to read. I'm not going to lie to you about that. It was tough.
Yes.
But anyway, choose a builder, plan your home with that builder together. You're going to want the builder involved. I know that some people ask a lot about, do I go get plans first, then have them bid out? Like, don't do that. Don't do that. Choose a builder. Again, whether it's us or not, choose your builder and plan the home with it, because you want it to be something that they can execute on, and they're comfortable with. You don't want to spend a bunch of money on plans and designs and revisions only to find out that they're going to have to redesign, revise, and redo the plans altogether anyway. So review the contracts with the builder. This should be a partnership. This is not an adversarial relationship. It's not a transactional relationship. This is a partnership. You're together for how long, Dawn? Like, how long does this go on?
12 to 14 months. On the short side, could be.
Yeah, and actually, if you're warranty, you're out there for a decade or more. So it does need to be a partnership. So review the contracts, your plans, the financing, and then we go to construction. Notice how far down the line construction actually is in build on your land. And then completion, of course, closing and warranty. So, Dawn, what in the world goes into defining one's needs and budget? How do we decide that?
So it's really just thinking about what you're looking for in your home. So kind of figuring out what kind of spaces do you need? What are you going to be using them for? And that kind of informs how you're going to place those spaces within your home. We've seen a lot of changes in how people want their homes to be laid out over, the last year. We're seeing a lot more requests for kind of closed-in studies, at-home learning spaces, working from home spaces. So thinking through all of those, what do you need? Do you need a big dining room to do entertaining often, or would just a large space connected to the kitchen work for you? So just thinking about that. What are you thinking about elevation and design? So when we talk about an elevation, folks, we're talking about what the exterior of your home looks like, and we're looking at that from all four sides. But just what appeals to you? Are you looking for that big front porch? Are you a fan of gables? Do you like the farmhouse look? Do you want stone? Stuff like that. So just thinking those things through, what works best for your area, a single story versus a 2-story. If you have a larger plot of land, a single story might look better on the lot, just because 2 stories, while you can get a lot of space, they can look really small if you don't have the other houses surrounding it. So we see a lot more single stories for us. Are there any special requirements for accessibility? Are you looking to build the home that you ultimately want to live in for the rest of your life? So should we plan in some accessibility aging in place features, lower commodes, grab bars, wider doorways, things like that? What's the home going to be used for? Are you living in it all the time? Is it going to be a vacation home? Is it a guest home? Thinking through things like that inform a lot of your decisions. Who's going to be living there? Again, takes into account things like accessibility, how they're going to use the space, and then taking all of that, what is your budget? And for that, we really recommend involving, unless you're paying cash, involving your lender. And really getting an idea from them of how much house you can afford, because you would be surprised where that is. So what your ultimate goal in payment is would really kind of inform what that budget is going to be.
Sure. And on the budgeted part, I've found, because I did work in our sales offices for a number of years, and we would ask people, okay, well, what is your budget? It's almost like they're holding their hand of cards, and they don't want to tip their hand of cards to you. And it's not the budget, at least at Tilson Homes and in most builders that I know.
Yes.
What you tell them is your budget is not going to drive the price whatsoever. Like when they ask what your budget is, they genuinely want to know
what is your budget. Yeah.
What do you have in mind that you're comfortable spending, so that I don't show you a bunch of plans that are either A, like you're prepared to do way, way more, or B, that it's so far out of reach that there's no point in even talking about them. Because the reality is the things cost what they cost.
Exactly.
I think people today are probably more in tune with that maybe than they used to be, because of it's in the news more. But the reality is, when a builder, or for sure Tilson, asks you what your budget is, it's not going to have, the number that you give us is not going to have an impact on the price of the home.
Right. Our prices do not change based on what your budget is. Our prices, at least, with Tilson, our prices are on our website. So that price is not going to change if you tell us you're willing to spend more on the house. That house price is not going to change. So don't be afraid. Yeah, I agree with you. That can be kind of a scary question. And we do have people who are like, I don't want to say, because the price, we are not car dealers. The price is not going up based on the budget that you give us.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, so obviously the easiest thing to do is go to Google and type in home plans.
No. Eric, bad advice. Bad advice.
Oh. All right. Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Unless you're a complete insomniac and want to get nothing done on as far as actually planning your home. Don't do that. There are thousands, tens of thousands out there. Some of them are great. Some of them are not. Some of them are designed for where they're being designed, and some of them are designed for other places. But basically, bring your own ideas for sure. But I would recommend that, again, whatever builder you go with, start at least do a cursory review of their plan library or their plan portfolio, because it'll give you an idea of where their comfort zone is, kind of their wheelhouse. Like, this is, if you see, go to our website, you can kind of get a pretty good idea of the type of homes that Tilson is comfortable building. It's pretty broad, from 1,100 to over 4,000 square feet. But by and large, you can kind of see what we do. You're not going to see a bunch of Spanish Mediterranean style. You're not going to see a bunch of glass and concrete and Frank Lloyd Wright metal kind of stuff. Like, you're just not going to see that. And so
Right.
the reason is because that's not really what we do. And that's okay. You don't want to kind of force a builder into what you have in mind. Go find a builder who does that. And vice versa. A builder doesn't really want to force a customer into their portfolio if they're looking for something completely different. But be prepared to be kind of open-minded. Have a very transparent conversation with your builder about what you're after, what's really important. If you can, sit down. Obviously our whole portfolio is designed by our in-house drafting team. We have a design and drafting team that works very, very hard and diligently, and a portfolio review team which Dawn is on, and others that go through and review these plans and looks for ways to improve them based on input from you guys and customers. So we've got pre-designed structural changes we can do. Obviously, we can customize pretty well anything, but just ask those questions up front before you get too deep in the planning process with your builder. And then obviously worry about that upfront contract price, which we'll get into more of that a little bit later. So when we're talking about floor plans, and again, this is build on your land 101.
101.
So when we say floor or floor plan, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about how a bird's eye view, how a floor plan looks from overhead. The floor plan doesn't necessarily have to do with the way a house looks from the outside. We'll get to that in a minute. But floor plan, where are the bedrooms? How big are they? How are they laid out? Where are the windows? Where are the doors? Which way do they swing? Where are the sinks? Where are the commodes? Where's the kitchen? How do the cabinets lay out? That is a floor plan for us. And then, like Don said, we do some that have second floors. Again, most of ours don't, because most of our customers have a lot of land and they want to go further out, not further up. But we do quite a few bonus spaces. So what does that look like? And usually you'll have kind of how it overlays over the first floor, so you get an idea of where it sits. So in this case, the bonus room sits directly over the family room. A good way to figure that out, if you're ever confused, is kind of find where the stairs line up.
Exactly.
Find where the stairs go, and give you a pretty good idea of where that bonus room is going to sit. And there's not as much flexibility as some people may think or want in where a bonus room goes. And that has more to do with this part, Dawn. What are we looking at here?
So this is that elevation that I was talking about earlier. So this is showing you, this is a front elevation. So it's the front exterior of the home. So this is showing you the materials that are going to be on the home, as well as the roof pitch, where all the different roof lines are, where windows go, all of that kind of, the shutters, the doors, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So these windows, you can go back and see, and they're going to line up with the floor plan. And like Don said, it gives you the roof pitch, and then of course you'll have an elevation is just the side of a particular building. This is the front. When you build with Tilson, you are going to of course get to see your front elevations, side elevations, rear elevations, cabinet elevations. So in other words, what a cabinet wall looks like from a particular vantage point, and we are all going to sign off on every single one of those pages. Floor plan, electrical plan, front, side, rear elevations, cabinet detail, flooring schedule. It's all parties are going to sign off on those so that everyone is crystal clear on what's going in. It's not a gotcha game. It is hey, we want to be sure that we got this right. This is your dream home. This is your forever home. So before we push the green button and go out there and start building, we want to be sure that it's what you want. So
exactly.
What can they do with this, Dawn? What are we looking at here?
So this is the interactive floor plans that are available on our website. It's actually the same home that we've been showing you in the previous slides, but this is an option we have on our website, and a lot of builders have this on their sites as well. But it's a good thing to look at, and it gives you an idea of some of the customizations that can be made. So there's a list over there on the left where you pick, and it'll change the layout of the floor plan to match the options that you have chosen. I think if you go to the next page, you'll see where I've kind of made it look like the floor plan that we've been looking at before. So putting in an alternate master bath, adding in that side load garage, a large covered porch on the back, ceiling treatments in the family room, just a bunch of different things. This one even has, you can add a fourth bedroom, you can completely change the layout of the kitchen. But these are just some pre-designed custom changes that we can make based on feedback from customers, and the most popular things that they like to kind of adapt on the plans, so that if you don't like it exactly how it is, we've got some pre-designed things that we know absolutely work. So here's a different kitchen layout where we know you're going to be able to open your dishwasher and still walk through, things like that.
Yeah, and because every design center, of course, that we have across the state is going to have pricing for every single one of these items. Based on where you're building. And this is when you get lost in kind of the bowels of the internet looking for plans, this is the kind of stuff that'll trip you up, or it'll get crossways with the builder. Because what is it being done over a crawl space? Is it being done on a slab on grade? Is it being done on a basement? Is it, and it's not all plans are suitable for all parts of the United States. And so you want to be sure that you're looking at plans that are optimized so it can kind of work in your area. You have a lot of flexibility here in Texas. We can do a lot of things, but at least from a get-go, being able to start at a kind of a square one of, here's some designs that kind of work for me. Here's some customizations I'd like to make. I don't see exactly what I'm wanting here. No problem. Come on into the offices. We'll sit down and go from here, but at least we have a starting point that we're both understanding. We kind of know what the price point is, and we go from there with a high degree of accuracy.
Absolutely.
What can they do beyond that, Dawn? I still want to see what I want with all your custom options. So now what?
I really like Holly's philosophy on this. We can make whatever changes you like as long as they apply to the rules of your budget, physics, and building code. Yeah. So just a few examples. You can change the layouts of your kitchens or your bathrooms. We see a lot of adding closets or media rooms, or even just closets to hold all the media stuff. So that you're not looking at all the wires. You can move walls, you can remove walls. You can add additional living space, or add an outdoor living space. And one of the easiest things to change is the exterior of the home. So if you're seeing one that's all brick and maybe you prefer board and batten, that is a really simple change to make.
Yeah. And a lot of people do that. So it's way to go. And then the fun begins. So
yes,
you go into our design center. I mean, all of the different moldings. And by the way, not everything you're looking at in here is a value added option, is an upgrade. Some of these things are very well included in the base price of all of our homes. So, but you still have to make selections even among the standard or included features. And so you've got, of course, your moldings and cabinets and countertops and floors and electrical fixtures and light fixtures and lions and tigers and bears, and we try to keep them out of the color room, but usually they'll run away scared anyway as soon as they walk away. The customer's picking color, so lions, tigers, and bears they split.
Well, and that is something when you're talking about this. Speaking of the color room, that's something when you are talking to builders, you want to ask, where are all of those selections done? We're showing you the very nice picture of how we have all of this together for you in one location, and you're doing this on site with your design consultant, with the help of an interior designer, but you're at the Tilson location. Ask your builders, where are all of my color selections done? Because with some, if they don't have a space like this, you're going to be running independently to different providers and trying to kind of piece it all together on your own. So ask that question and figure out kind of what you're comfortable with.
It can be really stressful. It's really, really stressful. And then, so you got all kinds of different things that you can do. We've got, of course, all these photos are on the website, but you've got your cathedral ceilings, various cabinet colors, different master bath options, just tons of stuff you can do. And that's just inside.
Right.
You've got some design and stuff to do on the outside. There's stones to choose from. There's brick to choose from, although a lot less than there used to be. There's siding colors and paint to choose from, stains for the various cedar accents and things like that. Your roof color. All of this stuff is selected by the customer. The light fixtures that go on the outside, the door hardware, the stain on the front door, the iron that's on the front door, the color of the mortar. I mean, every single item. And we help you through that, guys. We're not going to send you in there completely overwhelmed. So don't let it be daunting. But you do want somebody with some expertise to understand how it all goes together, because otherwise what will happen is you'll be maybe a quarter of the way through construction, and it's, oh man, we forgot to choose a mortar color. You hope that they don't just pick one for you and just show up with whatever's at the sand yard, or you have to drop everything you're doing from work or T-ball or Girl Scouts or whatever and go over to the stone yard, pick a mortar color as if you've ever done that before, and go from there. So work with somebody who's got a system for this.
Mm-hmm.
Anna, we have a spot where we should, I guess not, stucco and stone. So these are some samples of exteriors that we have around.
Yeah, just samples. I think there's a couple, board and batten.
And no one ever picks this, so you can probably just bypass this. I'm kidding.
Everybody picks this, yes.
Everybody loves the farmhouse. They're beautiful, they're cute.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, just elegant, really simply elegant. So very, very popular look right now.
Yep. And
then of course you have, like we talked about, the rear of the home. So front, side, rear elevations. This happens to be the back of our driftwood model, of course, in Georgetown. And so there's your porch, there's your windows going out the family room. This happens to be hardy plank siding with real soffit up here on the ceiling of the porch, and then a big cedar truss, which is just a really beautiful look. We have. So perhaps if there are any questions, we should stop and ask.
There are questions.
I guess we don't ask questions, we answer questions.
We answer questions.
We could do a whole episode of just, we ask you stuff and you tell us answers.
Ooh, let's do that.
Yeah.
All right. So Faith is asking how long for soil samples to return once they're taken?
Okay. So great question, because the way it works with our engineers is a little bit different from many other places. So the engineering firm that we use, they actually have their own, it's the same parent company, but it is a separate company that works in the same building, like side by side with the engineering firm. So they send the geotechnical investigation team out to your property. They extract the samples, however that may be done. Sometimes it's just with a test pit with a backhoe or a mini excavator. Sometimes usually it's 15 to 20 foot site bores inside the footprint of the home. And then they take that information back to their lab. And since the engineer is right there, they don't have to wait for 3, 4, 5 weeks that it takes to do all that testing and get that testing finalized and get it put into a beautiful little spiral bound PDF and stamped and signed off on. So the engineer can kind of scoot over there and kind of watch over their shoulder while they're running all the tests and say, okay, I've got the data I need. And then he or she goes back to their office and designs the foundation while the soil testing company is finishing up the kind of final detail.
The formal report.
Exactly, the formal report. So we may actually get the formal soil report some 3 or 4 weeks after we get the actual foundation design. But the design has been engineered to the soil on your property. It was just done while it was being tested. So kind of a cool little deal that we're able to do, that our engineering firm does. So to answer your question, it's about a 3-4 week process total. And so that's about how long it takes.
Okay. All right. Melissa is asking who carries the loan during the easy buy process. Does Tilson do that, or is it another lender? She's a little confused because we mentioned in a previous video that the buyer must be pre-qualified.
That's right. So yes, Tilson carries the loan, and we don't charge you interest on it. There's no interest accruing. It's our money, so it's an interest-free loan. But yes, you still must be pre-qualified. So we're not going to go start construction until we've seen that the buyer is going to be able to eventually close on the home with a permanent loan. So you will have to have that permanent financing lined up. You don't close on the permanent financing, but the permanent financing does have to be lined up and approved before we will start construction and start building and putting the capital out there interest-free on your behalf. We'll want to know that we can be made whole once the home is completely finished. So
so what we're asking you to do is going ahead and get pre-approved for the final mortgage. So you're not getting approved for a construction loan with your lender. You're getting approved for the final mortgage. So that's kind of what we're looking for the approval on.
Yeah, she's asking pre-qualified from Tilson or another lender. It's typically another lender, but Tilson is our pre-qualification process is pretty much the 10% equity. If you have 10% equity, that meets our criteria. If you have 10% equity and can get qualified for a loan, you're qualified with us. So
okay, perfect. And then Faith was asking, once the plans are signed, how long is taken from engineering to get them finalized?
Yeah, if the plans are signed, then we'll typically, and we have I'm assuming that they can get on your property and do the soil tests. The stakeout the site evaluation is complete, and we were able to establish egress access, and can get a soil testing unit onto the site. So typically we engineer from there, and it takes about 2 to 3 weeks to do engineering. I would budget 3 right now.
All right. Catherine says hi.
Hello, Catherine Knox.
Enjoy that new baby.
Hi, larger family. Yes.
Yes.
The Tilson family is getting bigger.
I know. We love that. Okay. Amanda is asking, can we put down a deposit for 10% of the build price in lieu of an appraisal?
I mean, it's not going to be a deposit. You're going to need to have 10% equity. I guess I'd take that back. You could potentially do a deposit, but we're still going to require the appraisal because the lender is going to still require the appraisal at the end. So we're going to require it up front, since again we're putting the capital outlay out there. We're going to want to know that there's enough equity in the deal.
Right.
It would be a super rare occurrence that this could happen, Amanda, but the 10% may not be enough. Let's say it appraises for super low. Not likely right now, especially, but theoretically that could happen where it just appraises for super for some. Let's say there's been a whole bunch of foreclosures all around you. That's usually what happens, but it's pretty rare these days. But the appraisal is still going to be done because whatever formal lender to close on that permanent loan, they're going to require an appraisal, even if they ignore it, which they're doing a lot of time these days. They are still going to require that appraisal. So we're going to require that it be done before we start construction.
Right.
Great
because
question.
we don't want you to be in a situation where you have a home that you can't finance or that you've overbuilt for the area that you're not getting the value for. So,
but we do have customers that make up the difference, Amanda, in the form of a deposit or a down payment. Let's say that we got 5%, and you got to make up the other 5% in a deposit or a down payment. That has happened. So that's no problem at all.
Okay, perfect. Let's see. Wesley's just sharing that he's in Phoenix, Arizona, but we'll be building the canyon in Greenville, Texas, and next weekend is going to Bryan to check out the new canyon. Awesome.
It will be worth the trip.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Beautiful home. Faith is asking, is Tilson experiencing a back order in supplies due to COVID? So we hinted at this a little bit earlier with a comment about brick. We are seeing some back order situations and some limited availability there. Eric, what else are we seeing?
Yeah, I mean, brick, windows, appliances, in some cases, cabinet hardware, light fixtures, plumbing fixtures. So yeah, anything basically that requires any kind of manufacturing is it's a struggle. So we haven't really had it hold up closings necessarily. I've heard garage doors lately may not get installed till way later in the process than we ordinarily like. But yes, there's a ton of demand on the system. So even since this whole thing kicked off, demand for new homes and remodeling of homes has not stopped. In fact, it's
right
exploded. And so, you can blame some of it on COVID, but a lot of it is to be blamed on demand. I mean, just high demand, and the market has not had a chance to catch up.
And we're doing all we can to control it and prevent it as much as possible. That's part of the reason, Eric was talking about, we ask you to pick everything out ahead of time before we even start construction, because that way we can order it way ahead of time and hopefully not experience as much delays as other people are hearing about, or know about them, a little bit further in advance, so we can, hey, if we did this door hardware instead of that door hardware, we could close a month earlier. Is everybody good with that?
Yep.
Kind of stuff.
True. Very true.
Let's see. Samuel is asking, will you build a home if we already have our own plans?
Go ahead, Dawn.
So it's going to depend on those plans. We're going to obviously want to take a look at them. Like Eric was talking about, we just want to make sure that it's something that we would be comfortable building. What is ultimately going to happen is we will redraw all of those plans simply because we do a site-specific engineered foundation. So we have to start your home from the foundation. So we're going to redraw everything to make sure that it meets the building code for where you are, as well as the requirements for that foundation. But as long as it's something within our wheelhouse, we can build off of your own plan. Just a little forewarning, what will happen the first meeting that you have with one of our design consultants is they're going to pull one of our existing plans and start modifying it to make it look like the plan that you've brought in. And they're really doing that just to give you kind of a ballpark price, because they know enough about our own plans to price any type of modification to it. So they're going to do that to give you the ballpark price and say, hey, are you comfortable with this budget? And if you are, they'll then take your original plan and send that to our drafting team to redraw and give you the exact price for that home. So I just didn't want you to be surprised and think, oh, they told me they build my plan, but they're not looking at my plan. That's why we handle it that way. All right. Jackie is asking, if during stakeout you run into an issue with the floor plan you chose, can you switch floor plans? And if so, are you subject to new price increases even if you signed your contract before the price increase?
So short answer, Jackie, would be yes. Yes, you can change the floor plan, and it would most likely be under the new price. The reason being is the specifications change. Part of the reason the prices increase is not just because material increases, although that's the bulk of it. It's because we have to change. Like, some stuff becomes unavailable or discontinued, or we change the way we put something together. And so we have probably more details than you really care about, but we have a numbering system so that we know when a file gets to the estimating department, what components it's supposed to get, as far as the way we're doing the framing, the way we're doing the, whatever it is that we're doing. We do change, like when we change cabinet companies, for instance, last year, how it went from one to another. So we know sequentially what this customer's home is supposed to be getting. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty rare occurrence that you would need to full on change the floor plan, but it does in fact happen in a situation like that. Yeah, I mean, we typically could treat that case by case and take a closer look at it. But ordinarily, yes, if you switch during the process from one plan to another plan, it's whatever the new price is for that plan, so we can be sure that it gets everything that it's included.
Okay, I think that makes sense. Ashton is asking, do you guys plan on prices going up? They have went up twice since I've been looking. So yes, we do periodically review our prices. Typically, we look at them at least once per quarter, and just make whatever necessary adjustments we need to in situations where there are, big major changes that happen. It could be a code, it could be lumber prices, it could be anything like that. We will adjust in between. So yes, unfortunately, prices will continue to increase. Hopefully they slow down a little bit, but I don't know if that's in the cards right now.
Yeah, I mean, as they have for the last 100 years. I mean, it's trend line is prices are going to go up on everything.
And Angela has a question about Mediterranean style. She knows we mentioned that we don't do Mediterranean, but can we, will we?
Not really. I mean, as far as true, what I would consider to be Mediterranean, that's not really something that we have, a bunch of suppliers for. We've done the Spanish tile roofs before. We've done them out of concrete. We've done them all kinds of different ways. And it's just, it happens so infrequently that it's not something that we have trades. I don't know what it would take right now to go find a new trade that does that in this economy, in this environment. I don't see how that could possibly, we want to onboard something like that. So,
okay. Melissa is asking, can the 3-car garage be entirely removed from the driftwood, and will the price be adjusted to reflect its removal, or will the price stay the same?
This is
so Melissa, the easiest way to do this is look at a plan called the Cypress. It is essentially the driftwood without that 3-car garage. So it's going to be, there's a few minor changes to the layout because that garage is removed. But if you look at the pricing for that, you'll see exactly what that looks like. If you just really want your house to be called the driftwood, they can absolutely take the 3-car garage off, and you will get the credit, and we'll still call it a driftwood. But essentially, it's a Cypress once you start doing that. All righty.
Do you want to do presentation and then come back, or do one more question and then?
Well, let's do the one question because I already popped it up. But J Man is asking, I have 2 questions I forgot to ask on the last live. Do y'all use the zip system? is the first question. And then the second is, how airtight do you make your homes?
So the answer is we have used this system in the past. Every time, the energy code changes, we go and try and find products that are going to serve this at best, in the most cost-effective way possible, with still adding the value for our customers. We've tried Blue Board foam, we've tried Tyvek, we've tried Zip System, we've done all of the different things, all the science experiments, and we landed on Tyvek as being the best solution for achieving the air changes per hour. And so the second question is, we make them as tight as possible. In climate zone 2, which is kind of closer to the coast, southeast-ish, is 5 air changes per hour or less, and we hit less every time. And then in climate zone 3, which is kind of to the north and the west of that, that's less 3 air changes per hour or less. So that's how tight we have to make them by code. I can tell you we're hitting in the 1.8 to 2.3 range on the when we use the spray foam, and we're hitting in the 3.5 to 4.3, 4.4 range when we're doing the bat installation. So that's how tight we make them, and it's measured. So
great. All right, let's jump back into the presentation.
When we get into the presentation, we will please keep asking your questions.
Yes, absolutely.
Questions, even the hard questions. I see some of them floating in there, and I have no problem answering those. So let's go get after it. But property location, we're looking urban, suburban, fringe, rural, and that's going to affect the appraisal, obviously. We'll talk about that here in a second. Deed, you got to find the deed. You want to consider the value of the surrounding homes, and the reason is because that's going to affect the appraisal. And that's going to determine your equity position ultimately. So also want to consider the surface terrain, how much slope is there, the topography. You want to have the land survey. That's a really important thing that we're going to have before we can really even lay the house out on your site, as it will need to have been surveyed. Consider the footprint of the home, like Jackie's question earlier. What if something affects it on the stakeout site evaluation, and then purchase title insurance. So this is just an example of a survey. This happens to be our lot in Texas Grand Ranch, just south of Huntsville. And so you can see we have a 2-acre lot, which is awesome, super cool. So here it is, all the way zoomed out. Here's the surveyor's stamp. So they are licensed by the state of Texas as a registered professional land surveyor. And then this is just kind of a zoomed in portion to show you that, yes, while we have 2 acres out there, so our LaSalle model is sitting here, but you can see that there's some building lines and some easements. So these are imaginary lines on the property over which we cannot build. So for instance, we cannot build within 75 feet of the front of our lot. It's still our land. We can plant grass, and we can have flower beds, and we can have a driveway, all that kind of cool stuff. And
we still have to maintain it.
Oh yes, and pay taxes on it. But no permanent structure can go over these building lines. So they got 20 feet on the sides and the back, 75 feet in the front. So this is just something to consider when you are looking at land. Find out if there are deed restrictions, if there are building lines, if are any pipeline easements. This could have a pipeline easement going right through the middle of it. And we've seen some of those. So
sometimes you'll see something called a drainage easement.
Yeah. And a survey and or a title commitment will tell you those things. Sometimes it won't be on the survey if the surveyor didn't have a title commitment to look at or to reference when they were doing this. So we want a title commitment and we want a survey because what we don't want to do is have the house, a third of the way through construction, only to find out, from TXU or Encore or somebody that you're over an easement that you can't be over. That's a problem. So that's that. What should people consider, Dawn, when they are thinking about choosing a builder?
So all of these things come into play. The first, you want to talk to them and make sure they're open and transparent about the quality of their construction and their materials. Can they explain the process? Eric, we were talking a little bit earlier about the Zip system versus Tyvek. Really, both are great systems. Can your builder explain to you why they use one over the other? Because it's important to know why they've made the choices that they have. You want to look at financing plans and programs. How is this home going to be paid for? Are you going to have a construction loan from a third party lender that's accruing interest? How does that come into play? Are they referring to in-house financing, which usually has a higher interest rate? You want to make sure that you're looking at all the fees and everything associated and what those programs look like. Things like, when are they going to do the appraisal on the home? You just want to take some of those things in consideration. Is it done up front, or is it a surprise when you get at the end if you're not appraising properly? Pricing methodology. How do they price this home? Are you getting a fixed price up front? Do they have anything? You might see some builders have things called cost overruns in their pricing, or using things like allowances. You want to make sure that you understand what's built into that and what that means for you. What a cost overrun means is that if the price of lumber changes, all of a sudden your price can go up a certain percentage, and that's written into the contract, and surprise, write me a check. Is what's going to happen. Same thing with allowances. They're saying, we think it's going to cost about this much, but if it's more, it's extra money. So just make sure you understand. There's nothing wrong with any of these pricings, but just make sure that you understand what could be happening. You want to look at reputation and capacity. What do past customers say about them? What do their vendors say about them? What do their subcontractors have to say? What do their partners say? And how many homes do they usually build? And how are they faring as far as that goes? Flexibility. How flexible are they? How much can you change the floor plans? How much say do you have in materials? How much say do you have, and how much are they going to help you out and let you really build the home that you're looking for? Experience. And when we talk about experience, we want you to be considering not just how many homes have they built in the state, how many years have they been in business, but how much have they actually built in the area where you're planning to build your home? Because Texas is a very big state. There are a lot of different rules and regulations and architectural review committees and different community requirements. You want to make sure you're dealing with someone who has, dealt with that area before. Trust and integrity. This is kind of a, hard to express how you feel this, but basically it comes down to, when you are talking to them, do you feel comfortable? We mentioned this is, that salesperson, that design consultant that you're talking with, you're going to be with them for at least a year, if not more. So if you're kind of getting a kind of feeling, please get up and go find somebody else, because it's just trust your gut. As far as that goes. And then references. Can they give you a list of customers to talk to actually get an honest opinion of how the experience was?
Beautiful. So speaking of pricing methodology,
let's talk about our least favorite one.
It is my most favorite. It is my most favorite. I like the hard questions. I like the tough questions. I like an educated buyer. That's what I like. And so this is, if you don't get anything else out of this presentation, this is one that you can take and show off to your friends, and you don't have to give us credit. Just go be smart. It's awesome. Educate the populace.
Yes.
Why doesn't Tilson price their homes by the square foot? Or why, when I ask you for a price per square foot, you want to just give me a price per square foot? And the reason is because not everything costs the same.
Mm-hmm.
I can put a 2,000 square foot house right here next to another 2,000 square foot house, and they can be $100,000 different or more. But they're both 2,000 square feet. So why is that? How could that possibly be? And we are going to make a super simple example so that this is a great party trick. It'd have to be a pretty lame party to do this, but it's a great party trick nonetheless. It'd be great if you had like Pictionary, you had like a whiteboard or something like that. You could do it. But you have a 10 foot by 10 foot square. This is a very small house, very uncomfortable house, but a house nonetheless. Mm-hmm. A house that some people will be very grateful for around the world. So this house is how many square feet, Dawn? What do we got?
We got 100.
Let's put that national championship Clemson education to work here. We got 100 square feet, and that's great. How many? Well, we'll get that in a second. Here's another house.
Mm-hmm.
This is more of a solitary confinement prison cell kind of thing, but it is a house nonetheless. Approximately how many square feet does this house have?
This one is also 100 square feet.
Okay, so I have two 100 square foot structures side by side. Now, here's where it gets very tricky. This is where it gets national championship level. How many perimeter feet of wall do I have? So just around the outside. What are we looking at?
So we got 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10.
All right.
So 40.
So 40. Now, for the bonus question, for which you will get nothing except to do another Facebook Live next week. How many lineal feet of perimeter do I have in our very uncomfortable sideways sleeping house?
So on that one, you've got 2 feet plus 50 feet plus 2 feet plus 50 feet. So we're at 104 lineal feet.
Brilliant. All right. So here's the deal. They're both 100 square feet. But this one, I already know. And all we're talking about, by the way, is perimeter around the outside.
Mm-hmm.
A perimeter beam of concrete, that's sheetrock, that's 2x4s, that's insulation, man hours. I have
whatever exterior material.
2.5 times more length of perimeter than I do in this one. So which one's going to cost me more to build without knowing anything else?
The really uncomfortable one.
Exactly. So we already know that if I don't do, and we're not even talking about floor coverings, cabinets, countertops, door hardware, plumbing fixtures, light fixtures, ceiling heights, elevation, none of that stuff, which, by the way, weigh heavily on the price. Just knowing what little bit we know about the perimeter of the home and the waste and the man hours, you're going to have 2.5 times more cost. So this was going to cost you more to build. So this is what, very simply, this is why price per square foot is the absolute worst way to start out pricing a home. Because you don't know which one the builder is starting with. They may be starting with this one, even if they're just building you this one. But in case you choose this one, they have to tell you, oh, our homes are $150 a square foot, no matter what. That way, if you pick this one, they're good to go. They'll still clear all their costs. They'll make some kind of a margin and be able to stay in business. If you buy this one, you're not getting a great deal. So anyway, do not be misled by price per square foot. And you'll stay out of a lot of trouble and a lot of confusion. And probably
the other thing that we didn't necessarily go into, but it's something to be aware of, if someone is quoting you a price per square foot, find out what they are pricing you the square footage of. So when you're looking at our website, if you see a square footage listed, it is only the living area. So it is your conditioned space. Some people, when they're quoting a price per square foot, you can kind of drive that cost down by adding in unfinished spaces like your porches and your garages. And that will make your cost per square foot look lower or higher depending upon how you're comparing it. So if you didn't take away don't use square footage, price per square foot, at least make sure you know what square footage you're using. So you're apples to apples.
Precisely. All right. So point made. Hopefully everybody understands that. If you got questions about that, drop them in the chat. Contract pricing methods. So you got cost plus. That's one way to price a home. You see a lot of high-end custom homes done that way. It's a very dangerous place for a builder to be right now, given how prices are going up. But typically, if you have a cost plus contract, you are definitely going to see a cost overruns or allowances like Dawn spoke to earlier, which is not only before the home starts. That's one thing, but it's when the house is under construction, the builder can come to you and say, oh, turns out my framer is going to cost $10,000 more than I thought it was going to cost. I'm allowed to go up on you as much as 15 to 20% during construction. So pay the difference right now before I continue anymore.
And that wasn't in your construction loan. So I'm going to need you to write me a check.
You have to write a check for it. Yeah. So these are something to, again, nothing about these are illegal, unethical, anything. A lot of contracts are done this way. Ours is not, but a lot are. And just like Dawn said, we want you to have awareness raised and know what questions to ask and what are your real obligations when you see something like this in an agreement. And then the way we do it, of course, is a true fixed price upfront based on the plans and specs. The only way your price can go up is if something has happened either on a loan issue that you have or land issue or title issue, city issue that you're dealing with on your specific piece of property that's having it take significantly longer than it should for us to be able to start that home. And of course, we'll be visiting with you all along the way, trying to help where we can. But there are occasions where, hey, it's been 6 months and the land's not cleared yet. We can't hold this price indefinitely. and then we go back and revisit that. But as long as you're moving and we're moving and the house goes under construction, it doesn't matter what happens to the price of anything during construction, your price stays fixed. So
Yep.
then you do a contract. Obviously, remember, all this is happening before construction. We haven't driven a nail yet. And you don't want to, because you want all parties involved to be crystal clear on what's going to be going up. Contracts, plans approved, colors selected, specifications signed. This is the best time for questions. If you are going to make changes, which we discourage you from doing once you do a contract, do it before you do the contract. Certainly before you start construction. It's kind of off limits once you start construction. Final review of colors, finishes, cabinets, because this needs to be all bold and all caps next time we do this.
I know.
Yeah.
Lead times.
It's a struggle right now.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about before. When your plans are finalized, before we release you to construction, we are ordering everything just to make sure that we're going to have it when we need it.
Yeah.
Or to try to have it when we need it. We can't guarantee it right now.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So then how does it get paid for while it's under construction? A couple of ways. You can pay cash for it. Some builders require you get a construction loan. In fact, most do. Or you can do Tilson's Easy Buy program. And kind of the way those work, if you're paying cash, you can take a nap or go grab a cup of coffee or take a bio break the next 2 slides. If you are getting a mortgage like the rest of us, listen to these closely. Construction loans. Dawn, take it away.
So construction loans, important disclaimer, this is what we don't do. But we do want to explain what it is so everybody can understand the difference. So these are what's used when the builder needs the customer to secure the money to pay for building the home. So the builder either doesn't have the cash or just isn't willing to outlay the cash on behalf of their customer. So they're asking you to go to a bank and get that money for them. So these are considered short-term loans. They're getting a little bit longer, but they're considered to be a short-term loan. It's going to be a variable interest rate. And because it's short-term, it's going to have a higher interest rate than your typical mortgage. So you're looking at about 1% to 2% above whatever the prevailing mortgage rate is on this loan. They're going to require hard equity. So they're going to want to make sure that you have a lot of equity in this project, because as far as they're concerned, this is a high-risk loan because it is short-term. They're financing a house that isn't completed. So they want to make sure that you have a lot of skin in the game. So usually you're going to see a minimum of 20% when you're doing it. This loan is about 12 to 18 months in duration, and it will start usually the second you sign your contract is when the builder is going to request that first draw. So what happens throughout the process is the lender is going to allow the builder to take draws, or they might call it installments or use some other type of language. But throughout the process, the builder is going to ask you to go to the lender and get the next payment amount to be sent to them. So that money is paid as the builder and the house progresses. So interest is going to accrue on the amount that's already been paid for the builder. So the further along you are in the process, the more interest is accruing over time, because the amount of money that the bank has paid out at that point is higher. So just something to keep in mind. Anybody who's familiar with the taxi and that meter is running, that is what this construction loan is. You'll see a couple of different options for how construction loans are handled. Some are going to require interest-only payments during construction. So whatever that interest is, that's what you're paying. There are some other programs that don't require any payments during construction, and they're just going to roll all of that interest into the final mortgage. So just make sure you understand what's happening, because that is affecting your final financing and how much you're financing, because you're not just financing the cost of the home, you're financing the cost of building the home. So all of that interest is rolling into there as well.
As opposed to what we do, which is our Easy Buy financing. You do not have to have a construction loan. We pay for the construction of the home out of our own back pocket. And of course, to qualify for this, we do require that you have 10% equity into the total value. So that's the value of your land plus the price of the home. Those two things combined together, 10% of whatever that number is. So if the house is $400,000 and the land is $100,000, value wise, that's $500,000 total value. You would need to have $50,000 paid into that land in one way or the other, which means you could actually roll the balance that you still owe into your permanent loan. But you get all those boxes checked, and Tilson will build the house from zero to completely finished out of our own back pocket. No construction loan or any associated cost or fees there. You're not closing on it. There's no interest accruing. There's no monthly
Mhm.
payment during construction. If you have that 10% equity, you don't have to put any money down apart from a $1,500 deposit. So you definitely have to lower equity. You don't have to have 20%, 25% like you do for a construction loan. You get to keep money in your pocket. And then obviously, intangible of that, it's good news. It's good news. It's not bad news. The intangible of that is the peace of mind, knowing that Tilson has the financial wherewithal to actually build this house and not get paid till it's completely finished. So that's a real substantial thing. You don't want to be going into a relationship where you may have a higher net worth than your home builder. That could be a very bad thing because there are lots of bills to be paid, and time is of the essence. When our contractor partners or our trade partners are finished with their part of the work, they expect to get paid. They get paid every week for the work that they do. So you cannot be, and if you want to get them to show up, you better pay them. You better pay them quick. So you want a builder that's got that part squared away. They've got an accounting department. They're taking care of their trades. Otherwise, you're going to have problems and liens.
Yeah.
Coming up. So finally, obviously, before you get construction, you would have the permanent financing already lined up. There are tons of options out there. The most popular ones are conventional, TexVet, FHA, and VA. Our preferred lenders do all of those programs. So most Fannie Mae guidelines want you to be around 29 to 41% of your gross monthly income. That's what your mortgage should be. Approximately, those are pretty conservative numbers. Obviously, there's going to be credit score requirements. It's going to be Fannie Mae backed, the Federal National Mortgage Association. We don't do any subprime lending or anything like that. No in-house lending. It's all going to be federally backed, sold on the secondary market mortgages. Okay, so it may be sold, it may not be sold, but they're going to be backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. Tilson's going to get an appraisal up front. Actually, your lender is going to end up doing that, and then we make the process very, very easy. So then what do we do, Dawn?
Then we start getting ready for construction. So you're going to have a site meeting. And this is something, again, you should see with any builder. So ask about this process, but this is kind of how our process goes. So we're going to have a site meeting. We'll call it a stakeout or a site evaluation. You'll hear us refer to it both ways. But this is when the builder actually meets you. You're met on the property. In our case, it's a land prep specialist who's going to meet you and walk through exactly where you want to place your home on the property. They'll talk about the best placement. Here's where septic should come in. Here's where we think power is going to come in, all of those components. And then you're going to want to secure any utilities necessary for construction. We've got to have power and water. You're also going to need to be working on, if you have to have a septic system, getting the permitting and design for that. Obtain any other necessary permits. So if you're most of the rural areas, this isn't going to be required, but if you're in a city, you're going to need to get those permits. If you have an architectural control committee, you would need to get approval from the community. So we'll help you through that process and make sure that you've reviewed their guidelines and the home that you designed are within those requirements. And we need to establish all-weather access to the site so we can move on from that to make sure that you've got good construction drive in place.
Which we have entire videos devoted to that. So,
Mhm.
But in short, this is more or less what it should look like. I don't know if you have a beautiful pond there or not, but
it's a bonus if you do.
The site that's cleared, evaluation's complete, all systems are go, and then construction begins, which is a different seminar. So,
yes.
Dawn, are there any questions at all?
Yes, there are.
Thank y'all for bearing with us. We know this is one of the longer ones, and now we'll get into the questions. Some will be harder than others, but you're gonna get some real talk with Eric and Dawn going through here. So.
All right. Melissa is asking if we can build smaller than our smallest plan.
Pretty rarely. I mean, we do have a couple of casita designs that we've done, but those are typically done in conjunction with another plan. But we have built them apart, but it's very rare. But we need to see the plan.
Okay. Let's see. Melissa is also asking, can you do the rear part of the driftwood without having cathedral ceilings in the living area?
I mean, I guess you could, but you're going to have a big blank wall above the. I'm assuming you're asking, can we do the cathedral ceiling on the porch, but not cathedral ceiling in the living space,
Mm-hmm.
which I guess you could theoretically do, but you're going to have a big blank, just hardy plank wall above the doors that come out from the family. So I definitely advise that you would get that kind of
Yeah,
drawn.
I would advise doing them together, because the other thing that's probably going to create is going to make your living room very dark, because of where that porch would go. You're not going to get any light coming in. So it probably could be done, but I'm not sure it should be done.
Right.
So get that drawn up. Brett is asking if we can briefly tell him about installing a home generator for incidents. Can we do it, or is it an aftermarket situation?
Okay, well, everything's going to be aftermarket now because you can't get them for 7 months. So they're talking about back order. They got cleaned out. You can't get a generator right now, and that's okay. So because they can very easily be done after the fact. But yes, so we'd want to have, typically the generator company who's doing it is going to, they do it all, which is really the preferred way to do it, because they have like automatic transfer switches that are designed to work with their generator. They talk to one another. They have signal, they're wired together. So they send test signals back and forth to make sure they're communicating. Because again, that's kind of one of those things where when you don't really need one ever, but when you need one, it's like a lawyer, you really need one. So, it's one of those things that I wouldn't try to bootstrap it with, well, let's wire for it with this, and then we'll install it. We don't know which one we want to install, but we'll install one later. Like, you really want to have, I want this unit, and let that generator company run with the whole thing. Where we stub out for the electrical, we typically, if you're going to have a generator, I would typically recommend doing an outside service panel, because they have knockouts in the bottom and in the side of them, that the generator company can easily do a knockout, install their transfer switch between the two, run it right back to the generator, and you're off to the races. That's the best way to do it, Brett, if you're going to do it. And that's before or after the fact. But yeah, the biggest thing is making sure that automatic transfer switch and the generator itself are matched up where they speak to each other.
Okay. Good advice. Renee is asking if the soil sample is taken during the site visit.
It is not. It is actually taken a couple of weeks after the site visit, the stakeout. And the reason is because we're staking the home where it's going to be, we hope. Number one, we want to make sure that we can actually access so part of what the site evaluator does is make sure that we can get equipment up onto the site.
Right.
Is there, discernible all-weather access because it's a drilling rig. It's not like a little pickup truck. It's a full-on large, heavy equipment that has to get up onto the property all the way to the site, inside the footprint of the home, drill, and be able to get out, which is sometimes the other part of the challenge.
That's the tough part. Getting on is fine. Getting out.
That'd be the tough part. So we want to be sure that that's done. That's what's determined at the site visit. And they determine, is it okay? Like, one of the checks is it okay for soil tests? Check yes, or no, we need access, or no, we need clearing, or we go from there. So great question.
Yeah, because they're going to need the footprint of that home completely clear too. So at the site evaluation, they're just verifying that all of that is done, or what needs to be done. Alrighty. All right. So a question from Shelly, which actually I'm going to hide this for the moment so I can see the whole thing. Building in midfield, work is very sporadic. Jobs start and then end up unfinished. Roof tarp has been exposed to moisture for weeks and nothing has been done. We've also had weeks where nothing gets done. Is this normal to not have any work done for weeks? Are jobs starting and stopping normal for Tilson? Such as not getting the electrical getting run, not all the staining getting done. How often should you hear updates about your house, etc.?
Yeah, so unfortunately, right now, that is unfortunately normal. We'll be waiting on things. We will have interruptions. Contractors are shorthanded across the country, specifically in Texas. And I know really in the Gulf Coast, the Bay Area, kind of where you are, just north of Blessing, that's unfortunately right now one of the biggest challenges that all builders have is work not being able to complete the work, not being able to get all the supplies necessary to complete the work. The good news, if there is any, and I know this may not feel real good right now, but the price is the price. Even though materials are in fact going up, Tilson's not going to go back to you and be like, oh, it's taking longer than we thought, or hey, the materials that we need are going to cost 30% more than we thought they were going to cost to finish wiring your home. So you need to pay or we're not coming back. Right now, it's truly just a manpower, a labor issue, and the entire home building industry is strained with labor right now. We were strained with labor before COVID ever kicked off, March of 2020. There was already no labor to be had because demand was already so high, and then demand went bonkers. So the good news on the Rhino liner, it's not even felt, it's on your roof. It's a liner. It's warranted for up to 60 days without having shingles on it, because shingles are another one of those things that can be tougher to come by. So the house can sit there literally for 2 months without shingles, and Owens Corning will still warrant it. So you should be getting at least weekly, and usually twice weekly updates from your construction superintendent. If you're not getting that, get us your private information. We'll get that done. That's what's going on. Yeah, unfortunately, right now there's a lot of sitting and waiting and being patient.
Yes,
and we don't like it any more than you do, because we've locked that price in way back, right? That we're not getting paid for till the house is completely finished. So believe me when I tell you that we want to see it going and we want the job finished. So I know it's stressful. I know it's irritating. I don't make any excuses, but that's just unfortunately where we are right now in the industry.
Yes, absolutely. So Faith is asking, when does Tilson place the temp pole in the process?
Depends a little bit on the electrical provider. Some of them want to do their work first before we bring the T-pole out. Some of them impose that the T-pole be out there before they'll come out there and do any work. So in some places don't even need T-poles. Where I have my property, they come out when they do the work and build the pedestal, there's an electrical outlet on the side of it, and we don't use a T-pole. So It's going to vary greatly across the state of Texas. But basically, suffice it to say, before construction, sometimes way before construction, and sometimes right before construction. But it really depends on, Faith, exactly where you're building and what that electrical provider requires.
Mm-hmm. And Faith, I will also say, getting electricity connected is another place where we're seeing a lot of delays from the companies. So request your power hookup as early as possible. Get on their list to get power installed. So Ashton is asking, so we're not looking for a construction loan, we're looking for a mortgage loan. Correct. If you're working with Tilson, that is what you're looking. We would recommend, we do have 2 preferred lenders that we like a lot, just because they're familiar with our process and they don't look at us like we're speaking a foreign language when we say, hey, we need you to do the appraisal now. So it just makes the process a little bit smoother for you. But if you reach out to us, we can give you the contact information for those.
And they've both been working with Tilson customers for like 16 and 20 years, respectively. So this is they're not new to this ballgame.
Yeah, I think on the last survey that we did, it's an average of 30 to 60 days faster if you go with one of our preferred lenders.
I mean, they're new by Tilson standards. They're not like 100 years old or anything, but they're not like brand new.
Yeah, they're not babies, but they're... Yeah. All right. So Alex is asking, are we having an issue with lumber or price increase due to lumber cost?
Price increases, yes. We have not seen a whole lot of supply issues, although I know other builders that have. But definitely the price is going up. I mean, I saw a post yesterday on LinkedIn that someone took a picture. It wasn't in Texas, but it was somewhere in the United States, that half-inch CDX plywood was $54 a sheet, which is stupid. Just stupid.
Yes. Lots more questions about, I've noticed that the prices have gone up. So just we'll address that again. Increase in the past few months. This because of COVID, supply and demand. Yes, all of the above is what we're seeing.
Yeah, and folks, I know it hurts when you're shopping. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
You folks who have been in your homes for 6 months or a year or 10 years, great. I also will go out there and say I don't think we all want the price to come down. Right? Like that makes sense.
We think we want the price to come down.
I don't think we want what it would take to make home prices go down. Like think about the last time that happened and what happened with the economy and where we were as a country. Think 2007, 2008, 2009, 11. Like it's going to take a large economic correction or spike in interest rates or something like pretty catastrophic to do that. So I'm not saying everybody wants the best value. I understand that as well as anybody. What I will say is be careful what you wish for.
Mm-hmm.
Because with the price of real estate, the price of real estate going down is typically very, very, very bad news for our country as a whole. I don't like the prices going up as fast as they are any more than anybody else does, particularly the way our business model works. Because again, we're
We're not getting paid till the end.
It is. So believe me, it doesn't serve us to have to sit there and pay higher and higher and higher prices. But I'll also say that I'm not one for voting that real estate go down in value. I think that is very unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, real talk.
Philosophy. Okay, so Jim Bob is asking, we started our Tilson house selection back in September. What happens if appliances are out of production because of newer year updates?
Yeah, and I saw he just asked, will appliances be automatically updated? So we're not going to, Jim Bob, once you've selected something that specific, like with a model number, by our agreement that we have with you, we cannot just automatically update it without your permission. Obviously, we're going to have to update it if something's discontinued. So what will happen is you'll get a notification either from your sales consultant or from your building superintendent that say, hey, the Frigidaire 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is no longer being made. It doesn't exist. There isn't one on planet Earth. And so here are some alternatives to choose from. Please pick one of these and get back to us. And that's going to really kind of typically fall into here's what will fit in the cabinet layout that you've selected. Here's what ovens will fit in the cabinet cutout, or here's what ranges will fit between the cabinet, or here's what will fit overhead as far as microwave or hood goes. But we would reach out to you direct if it has in fact been discontinued. We'll reach out to you and let you know that, and you'll reselect. But a lot of the stuff, like Dawn spoke to, we order it as early as we possibly can, so that we could basically it's spoken for. It's ours. Like, here's the PO for it. Go ahead and send us the bill for it, whatever. But and in some cases that's working, and in some cases it's just not. So we will be with something that specific. We would have to reach out to you and notify you, and you would reselect.
Okay.
That goes for tile, wood, light fixtures, plumbing fixtures. Like, nothing's going to show up in your house that you're like,
where'd that come from?
I've seen this. So.
All right. Tony is asking, closing on our land next week. In December, we visited Tilson and have already been pre-approved for the loan. When I close on the land, what is my next step?
Dawn, what's the next step?
So the next step, and I would actually do it before you close, go ahead and reach back out to your design consultant and make an appointment to come on in, because we're going to want to go ahead and get moving as quickly as possible. And when you come in, you're going to want to bring, your title and your survey and all of that stuff, so we can start the process with you and figure out how that home is going to fit on your land. And let's see, Jen is asking if she can buy her own tile.
Typically no, Jen. That's not really something, because our tile contractors they're, believe it or not, tile's not tile, not tile. It's not all the same. And so that we're really going to have you bring that to us, show us what you're really after, and we'll look through Dow Tile's portfolio and have you select something that's really close to that. But the agreement we have with our tile installers, even though we're buying it from Dow Tile, with the installers, we've put a program together of, hey, here's the different offerings we have. Here's the different levels they're going to be. And here's, floor tile, shower floor tile, wall tile, deco tiles, all that kind of stuff. What are you going to charge labor-wise for each and every one of those? And we wouldn't have any kind of labor price for a tile that they've not seen or been familiar with. So,
okay, that makes sense. Angela is asking if Tilson has some protection against price overrun.
So we have some, yes, we have some protection in our agreement. There is our customers are protected to a degree. Mm-hmm. It's not indefinite. We cannot hold the prices indefinitely. Obviously, as long as your file is moving, and there are stipulations of owners' responsibilities. So they're itemized out. Every single one of them are listed there. You fulfill every single one of those owners' additional responsibilities in the time frame that's in the agreement, then your price is protected. It's when we typically start seeing that, now my land has to be replatted. We find that out 2 or 3 months into the process. Mm-hmm. I'm surveying out 2 acres for this, or, there's a title issue from an old pipeline easement that goes to the middle of it that's going to take 5 months to clear up, or 3 months to clear up. Things like that come up. We can't protect the price indefinitely from those. Those are specific to the land, and the price is subject to change if those items aren't remedied in the time allowed for in the contract. So great question, Angela. Thanks for asking.
Okay. Melissa is asking if Tilson can come back months or years later after building the home to do additions such as a garage, carport, or additional square footage.
Boy, we've done it before, and it's not. No, we don't do it.
No. Yeah,
Every
we
time
don't.
do it, we regret the remodel business. It's not our thing. We're not our jam.
Yeah.
So no, Melissa, I'm sorry, we don't do that.
All right. James is asking, once you lock into a plan, sign a contract under the Easy Buy program, does the price lock in until completion?
Again, James, yeah, I know. I'm sure he asked this before I answered a while ago, but yeah, it does. So long as the owners of the obligations are being fulfilled, it's not indefinite. There are timeframes on it.
Yes.
We can't lock in a price now and guarantee it for 6 months. Like that's not how that works. So once we start construction, the price obviously is locked in place. But just signing the contract, if you're not, if the land's not ready to be built on in the next like short order, like 90 to 150 days,
don't sign the contract.
Don't do the contract yet because the price is going to change.
Angela is asking, what is the typical build time right now?
Dawn has that.
Okay, so our total process overall, we're telling everyone to expect about 12 to 14 months. And that includes all of the upfront work. So getting your land ready, doing your plans, picking out your colors, getting all the site prep, all of that kind of stuff, permitting, all of those issues. That's going to be 120 to 150 days of that time frame. And then we would start construction after that. So that's the rest of the time that's built into there. Terry is asking, I'm wanting to make the utility room larger. I just signed my contract. When can I make this change?
I mean, you need to make it as early as possible. It's going to slow things down for sure. I mean, it's going to add time. But yeah, I mean, certainly do it now, not during construction. But typically we don't make any changes like that till after. I mean, we sign the contract, it goes to our design drafting team, and they start doing the plans, and we can't be loading the train while it's going down the tracks, as a phrase I like to use in our company. And so that perhaps that change is made when the plans come back. But because hopefully there's not anything else, but maybe there's other things you want to change that you think about. But it'd be really, really good if once we do an agreement, we don't make the changes to it. But we understand that it is custom. Things change, and so as long as you're willing to accept the time frame extensions that are going to go onto that, then we can make that change. So call your design consultant. They'll tell you where it is in the process and how we go about making that change.
Okay, perfect. Liz is saying she just completed her to-do list and is waiting on the septic system permit. How long does this usually take?
Wow, it can vary quite a bit across the state, Liz. Yeah, I mean, it can be anywhere from 3 to 5 days to 3 to 5 weeks. I don't know what county that you're dealing with, and so it really is. We have one in Bastrop County right now that for whatever reason, it's taken almost 7 or 8 weeks to get the septic permit back from them. And so that's frustrating. They blame it on COVID. They're not going to work or whatever. I don't know what they're doing. So anyway, hopefully it's not something like that. Hopefully it's quick. It doesn't take long. Either it's okay or it's not. I mean, it's a pretty binary process. It's either approved or it's not approved. So anyway.
Okay. J-Man is saying that he's working with his lender for a loan to purchase land and a home. Is Tilson okay with this?
J-Man, bring the deal to one of our design consultants and sales centers and let us see, because you may be spending money you don't need to spend.
Right.
Because they're going to want to sell you a construction loan because they make
a lot of money
in shorter time than they do with what our process is. So I wouldn't just go do that unless that's the only alternative you have, which is probably not likely.
Yes. All right. Donna is asking if we assist with the permitting.
We do in the areas in which we can. In fact, the areas where we can, we do it all if they'll let us. But because it is built on your land, which is why we do this whole seminar, there's some places that truly will not let us. Like they make the landowner do the application. Or at least sign it. There's some places that you can give us kind of a very specific power of attorney to do it on your behalf. But there are some places that, in fact, nope, we want the person whose name is on the deed to walk up the steps, come in our office, sign the documents, and do all that. And those will usually fill it all out for you, and just say sign here and
go there.
Yeah, and go over there and take this check and do that. But to the extent that we can, yes, Donna, we assist or just take care of the permitting.
Okay.
It's for sure with the building. Now, on the septic, if if we're doing the septic, yeah, we do it all. If you're doing the septic or your septic installer designer is doing the permitting, they will have to handle that.
Okay, makes sense. Angela's saying, I see secure utilities. Will Tilson Prairie build? My land will not have utilities until closer to summer of 2022.
Unfortunately, no, ma'am. No, we would need to have utilities in place before we could do the agreement, go ahead and start construction and enter into the agreement. So, I mean, it's a lender issue, right? So the lender is not going to make a loan on a piece of property, on a home that doesn't have utilities. I mean, if it doesn't have running lights and running water and flushable toilet and a way to get rid of the wastewater, you're not going to be able to build. And most counties won't let you do that either anymore. Like, they're going to want to have water supply, electricity, and a wastewater system before they'll issue a permit.
Okay, that makes sense. Tony is asking if we can give a general price on adding the bonus room to the canyon. Look at that real quick.
Okay. The answer is yes, Tony, we can.
Yes, we can. So I'm looking at the Canyon C, which is what our model is, and you're looking at, where is it? You're looking at around $51,000 to add in that bonus room. Remember, that does include that powder room, comes with it at the same time. Alrighty, let's see. Peggy is saying, we just had our Livingston B slab poured last week. After home is complete, we want to have a tornado safe room installed in the garage floor. Will that compromise the slab or affect Tilson's warranty in any way?
So as long as you're not digging into the slab, I want to be sure I understand, like, definitely don't cut a hole in the slab and go underneath. Don't do that. Mostly because there's cable that will flood it. Yes. And there are cables going through.
Those pressure cables are going to go pop and
at
bad
30,000 PSI. You do not want to come into contact with one of those. So
No.
don't do that. If you're asking about one of the ones like from a Family Safe or one of those where I actually move a steel structure inside the garage and anchor it to the slab, that's no problem. But as far as penetrating through the foundation anyway and going under, that's not going to work.
Okay.
Don't do so. I don't know which type you're doing, but don't do that.
Yeah. Don't dig into your foundation.
She said she's bolted down, so that's good.
All right, perfect. All right, Antonio is saying he just closed on land and had it surveyed. How important is it for me to preserve the survey flags? The corner pins are crucial. Make sure that all those corner pins stay marked and preserve that marking, because we need those when we come out to do the site evaluation. Otherwise, you have to get a new survey.
One thing to do, Antonio, and I've done this and I've seen other homeowners do this, is get like the T-posts like you would use for barbed wire. So go to Home Depot or McCoy's. I prefer McCoy's if you can. Whatever hardware store you can get to or co-op, and get T-posts like you use for barbed wire. They'll know what it is. Go out there where those flags are, find those iron rods, and drive a 6-foot T-post, paint it red or pink or whatever you want to do, so that if over the next 3 months, because we're going into the growing season now. I mean, weeds are going to start coming up, but 3 months, 6 months, 2 years from now, you can go out there and you've got a big old 6-foot T-post that is easy to find. It's hard to knock over. You get a T-post driver and you drive it into the ground 1.5 feet or 2 feet, and you're good. If you're in a hill country type area where you can't drive a T-post because it's rock, go get you a 2 or 3 pound hammer and a 2 or 3 foot piece of rebar, which you can also get at your local McCoy's. Get a piece of rebar and drive it down into the ground there, paint it red, pink, orange, whatever. So that, again, as the grass starts to grow or it rains and silt gets on top of it, we don't lose where that corner pin is going to be. But T-post or rebar, depending on where you are.
Perfect. Renee is asking if we wanted to level out our lot, do we want to wait until after the site visit?
Yes.
Wanting to level it out and fill in.
Definitely don't do anything to the property before your site visit, apart from just underbrush it or clear it. Don't bring in dirt. Don't do anything like that until we've come out there, because one, you may be spending money you don't need to spend. We may be taking care of part of that. And then two, we don't want to have to end up, the engineer comes out and says, oh, well, now we have to dig through this, unstabilized fill, and goes from there. So I would discourage you from bringing in any material and leveling it off or moving material from one part to the other. Just clear the lot, let us come out there, shoot some grade shots, and go from there.
Yes. Wani is asking if we have soffit lighting and can she buy her own tile for accents in shower or to use in a room?
We do have soffit lighting, and we don't install owner furnished items like tile accents or things like that. Again, go back to about the tile contractors. We don't have a labor price from them on installing those things. So we do have a wide selection of stuff in our design centers for those accent tiles, deco tiles, something like that. And if you don't find something there, show us what you're after and let us reach out to our vendor. And I bet you we can find something that's extremely close, maybe even
Absolutely.
better.
Absolutely. J-Man is asking if we have any suggestions or referrals to a lender that will finance both the land and the home. Usually we recommend two different lenders. We look for land financing to come through people who kind of specialize in that. So Capital Farm Credit or local credit unions are very good for getting land loans. And then for the home loan, we recommend CMG Financial or AmeriCap. For that. And what's going to happen, J-Man, is whatever loan you take out on the land is going to stay in place throughout construction. So you'll just continue to make payments on that. And then at the end, when you get your final mortgage, they'll roll in whatever balance is left on your land lien into your final mortgage. That's how that's going to work. All righty. Let's see. Yeah, Peggy did specify that it's going to be bolted down. James is asking, how much is it to add a garage?
Varies based on the plan, James. It could be anywhere from $30,000 to $60,000, depending on the plan and what size garage. So I recommend you set up a call or appointment with a local design center and get it priced out for you. They can do that.
Perfect. And then Melissa is asking if the casita can be added by Tilson after the main house is built, or would it need to be done at the same time?
We can add it afterwards. We've done that on a few occasions, so we sure can do that. There was somebody up in here also that really appreciated our honesty about our transparency.
Yes, Brett did thank you for your honesty about questions about delays.
I mean, there may be dozens of others that didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't say anything, but Brett, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
We do think that's part of what sets us apart. Is, man, we can sit here and make excuses, but they don't solve anything. This is what's really happening, and we're doing the best we can, and we're going to make it the best experience we possibly can for you. But it's going to be a challenge, and we're going to work hard.
Yes, and the one, like Eric has mentioned, the one consolation that we have for our customers is that once you go to construction, your price is your price. So there's not going to be any surprises, and we want this house done as badly as you do because we don't get any money until it's done, unlike other builders who have most of the money before the home is actually finished.
So with that, what do we say?
Questions I see.
Thank you all for sticking with us for this very long Build on Your Lot.
Yes, this is a long one and early in the day. So thank you, everybody.
That's it. So now all your tummies are growling. It's time to get something to eat. Process all this information. Obviously, we are so grateful that you came and joined us. Dawn, thank you for putting this together. Thank you, marketing team, for monitoring the chat through this whole thing. I know y'all were busy. You have blisters on your hands from typing away. So anyway, we're open 7 days a week at all of our design center locations across the state. We have our website that's open 24/7. We have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have YouTube. We have videos that we're trying to be sure you guys have all the information you possibly need to make a great decision. And we genuinely soon hope to make you part of the Tilson family. See you guys later.
Bye.